Deep breaths, my loves. When morning light meets old shadows, only one can prevail. Chapter 26. Shadows. Darcy woke to sunlight painting patterns across bare skin and tangled blankets. She felt Callum press a kiss to her shoulder before reluctantly untangling himself from their warm cocoon.
Stay,
she murmured, reaching for him.
Can't.
Another kiss, this time to her temple.
You need food, and more importantly, coffee.
She watched through half-lidded eyes as he pulled on his jeans and a flannel shirt from the cabin's emergency supplies. Their own clothes lay scattered across the floor, still slightly damp from yesterday's snow.
Here.
He tossed her another flannel and thick wool socks.
These will be warmer than your clearance rack specials.
my hero.
She said dryly, but couldn't help sighing as she slipped into the clothes that smelled like him. The socks, at least, actually fit. Morning sunlight streamed through the cabin windows as Darcy watched Callum move around the small kitchen, admiring how his borrowed flannel shirt stretched across his shoulders. Her own clothes were mostly dry, though she'd kept his thick wool socks.
There's always emergency supplies here,
he explained, pulling out coffee and pancake mix.
Richard believed in being prepared for anything.
Anything like rescuing half-frozen comic artists?
That might be a new one.
He set a steaming mug in front of her.
Though speaking of new beginnings...
Smooth transition.
But she smiled into her coffee.
I mean it, Darcy.
He cracked eggs into a bowl, his movements deliberate.
What happened yesterday, with Claire, with the storm? I need you to know something.
That's an ominous start to morning after conversation.
Claire was right about one thing.
He turned to face her.
I do still have nightmares. I probably always will. But she was wrong about what I need.
And what do you need?
Her voice was barely a whisper.
Someone who helps me see the light, not just remember the darkness.
He paused in his cooking to meet her eyes.
Someone who shows me how to transform pain into something beautiful, instead of just carrying it.
I don't transform anything.
Darcy protested softly.
I just draw what I see.
No.
He moved to sit beside her.
You draw what could be. Every panel, every story. You take raw moments and show their possibility, their hope.
His fingers found hers on the table.
I've spent years capturing moments exactly as they are, trying to freeze time. But you show how moments flow into each other, how they change, how they heal.
Is that why you started taking photos again, after we met?
Yeah.
He smiled, thumb tracing patterns on her wrist.
Watching you sketch, seeing how you found joy in real moments, it made me want to try again, to capture life instead of just aftermath.
Even when I'm turning our moments into content?
Especially then.
He lifted her hand to his lips.
Because you don't just record what happens, you show what it means, how it feels.
His eyes crinkled.
Though I'm not sure how you'll draw this particular morning.
Carefully.
She felt her cheeks warm.
Very carefully. And maybe not for public consumption.
His laugh was interrupted by the door bursting open, letting in a blast of cold air, and Claire, her camera still hanging like a weapon at her side.
I knew I'd find you here.
She said, honey-sweet and venomous.
Because I know you, Cal. I know all your haunts, all your hiding places.
Her eyes swept over their state of undress, the rumpled bed.
How quaint. Playing house with your comic artist.
Callum set down the mixing bowl with careful control.
Claire.
Did you tell her about the nightmares yet? About how you sometimes can't look at your camera without seeing that little boy's face? About how you...
Stop.
Callum's voice was gentle but firm.
Just stop.
Why? Because you'd rather pretend those ghosts don't exist? Rather play it normal with someone who turns tragedy into entertainment?
Because the past is over.
He stepped between Claire and Darcy.
Because I've spent years trying to help you move forward, trying to carry your shadow along with mine. But I can't do it anymore.
Can't?
Claire's voice cracked.
Or won't?
Both.
He softened slightly.
We've been drowning in the same memory for so long, Claire. Holding each other under. I had to learn to swim again. To breathe. And you need to learn too.
With her?
Claire spat the word.
With whoever helps you find the light again. But not with me.
He straightened.
I can't be your anchor to that moment anymore.
But I need...
No.
For the first time, steel entered his voice.
You need to face your own ghosts. I can't carry them for you anymore.
Claire staggered back as if struck.
You don't mean that. You can't.
I do. And I think you knew this was coming. Why else track Rose's posts? Why else show up the moment you saw me starting to heal?
Claire's mask cracked completely.
I don't know how to let go.
I know,
Callum's voice gentled again.
but you have to try, for both our sakes.
Tears spilled down Claire's cheeks as she fumbled for the door handle. She paused there, one last time.
Did you ever love me, really?
Yes,
Callum's honesty was kind but absolute.
but we loved our shared pain more, and that's no way to live.
Claire's hand tightened on the door handle until her knuckles went white. She turned one last time, her face a mask of bitter prophecy.
You think you can handle his darkness now, when everything's new and romantic. But wait until you see the ugly truth burned into his soul. You'll run, just like all your comic heroines run. And you're leaving?
Her smile was cruel.
That will be the wound that finally breaks him.
Goodbye, Claire.
Callum's voice was final. She fled into the snow, leaving only silence and the lingering poison of her words. After she left, silence filled the cabin. Darcy stood, moving to Callum's side. His hands were shaking slightly as he picked up the mixing bowl again.
Still want those pancakes?
He asked quietly. She took the bowl from him, set it down, and pulled him into her arms. He buried his face in her neck, breathing deeply.
Thank you.
He whispered.
For what?
For showing me there's more to life than remembering. For teaching me how to draw new endings.
She held him tighter, feeling his shoulders slowly release their tension. Outside, fresh snow glittered with possibility. Some ghosts, it seemed, could finally be laid to rest, even if the pancakes got a little cold in the process.